good news. Now, who are you? Is that you, Ribbon? Looks like it could be Ribbon just lying down. And Intima nursing. There we go. So Ribbon and Intima are here. As far as I can see, no sign of anybody else at this stage, but at least the two of them are here, and it looks like Intima's having breakfast. It seems to be a good time of day to come to the den. It seems as though Intima often is suckling. In the last 3 times I've been at this time of the day, she's been suckling with Ribbon, and look at Ribbon's very, very sleepy. What amazes me is if you have a look at Ribbon's stomach, it's actually not very swollen. It's not very big. It's not as though looks as though she's eaten too much. But yesterday morning, Ribbon had a belly of note. She was involved with the wild dog hyena clash at Chitwa Dam, and she was seen feeding on that carcass with a nice big full tummy. And so it's amazing how quickly they digest and how quickly they go back to normal. Now, I believe Taylor's found signal and a feathered friend, so let's quickly go across to her because our hyenas are not going anywhere. Well, we are, and it's all pretty sedate this morning. Everyone's taking it very easy. Intima's feeding. Ribbon is fairly sleepy. You can see she's looking around every now and then. Absolutely no sign of that little cub anywhere. I don't know if maybe it's inside the hole, but no sign of it. And I was talking to Taylor because, as we know, I was away for a day, and she said she came and checked, and it's looking more and more likely that little cub is the cub from Scarback, and that Scarback has not come back to this den for quite some time, and that little cub may indeed, unfortunately, pass away. So it's a bit of a bad day all around in terms of Atumi and the little cub here. And you'll find that Ribbon won't allow feed it and won't give any nutrients to that cub itself. But this is how nature works, unfortunately. It's, like I say, brutal at times, as much as it's amazing, and we get to see little intimate moments like this of a little hyena cub suckling from its mom. It also has the other effects on us, which is the brutal side of it, and it can be very hard to watch these things, but unfortunately that is how it works out here. And it's, like I say, it's what makes nature so compelling and so amazing, is that this ability and this drive to survive and to try and keep things alive really is far outweighs all of the sort of negative sides of what we see. And the ability of these animals to actually live day to day and to make sure that they get the species going and keep the species alive is astounding. It's something that always amazes me in the way that they do things. And you can see Intima, well, she's, on a more positive note, is probably one of the happiest little cubs that it could be. It's lying on her side in a bit of shade, and she'll be getting very nutrient-rich milk from Mom, because I was saying earlier that Mom fed off that impala that the wild dogs killed at Chitwa Dam yesterday morning, and that nutrients that Ribbon has taken were being transferred into her milk, and so that little Intima is getting really nutrient-rich, high-energy milk at the moment, and so will be a happy little one as it sucks away at the teats. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I'm sure Ribbon's milk is going to be starting to become less and less and less. And so maybe that's why we're finding Intima feeding for such long periods of time. Not only is she bigger and has a bigger stomach, which means there's more to fill, but on top of that is that you'll find that she's probably not getting the same flow of milk as she was getting when she was a little bit younger. And so now she's got to spend more time feeding to get the same amount of nutrients that she was getting as a young individual. And Ribbon, where's all the rest of you? Maybe the others are here. There's lots of places that are shady that the rest of the clan can be lying in. Although we've not seen any of the matriarch or high-ranking females around this den yet, as far as I know. I'm not sure if maybe Taylor or Ali has, but I certainly haven't seen Madam or Pretty coming around this area and checking what's going on. So we've seen some of the younger ones in this area lying in the shade, but I haven't seen any sign of the matriarchs. And maybe they are around, maybe they do spend time here. I was actually saying to, I think it was to Sebastian yesterday, that I'm sure that Madam and Pretty have a den somewhere on Hoffman's in Little Gowrie, because every day that we drive that boundary. There's tracks on either Weaver's Nest or Shabamu for big adult female hyenas going north and south. So it seems like they come over in the night, and then in the day they go back, in the mornings they go back south, because the tracks going south are generally on top of the ones coming north. So I'm sure there is a den. Also, I have followed multiple hyenas, particularly those two, to that southern boundary, and we've seen them going from Treehouse Dam drinking and then going straight south on Shabamu and into Hoffman's Little Gowrie area. So I think they might be that side, and then the lower ranking females this side. Of course, that is a big sort of, well, what would you call it? I suppose it's a big theory, and it's not one that is proven in any way, but it just seems that the tracks and the evidence of what we're seeing is that these guys are moving a lot more in the southern parts, and then we've got these hyenas up here. And the track size of the one track that we're seeing, particularly around Shabamu, Treehouse, Weaver's Nest, is massive. The other day I thought there was a big male leopard track, and it turned out to be this female hyena. So she's got a really big paw print, which I imagine would be for pretty, or for Madam or Pretty, or one of those. Sorry, there is a spider web on the lens, so I'm going to get rid of that. But other than that, it's all very peaceful here. The hyena dens are often like this at this time of the day, particularly when the little ones are feeding. They're generally very active when there is a bit of commotion going around, and when Ribbon maybe arrives, then you'll find Tima will walk around. But now that she's feeding, she's going to be super relaxed. She's not going to move too much. And you can see Ribbon is sleeping. She's obviously had a long night of roaming around and moving and seeing what's out there. And so I think it's all just now about taking it very easy and taking the time to enjoy a bit of sunshine, much like what we're doing. It's actually very pleasant sitting here at the den. There's a bit of a breeze blowing, but there's a bit of sunshine. And I suppose if you're a furry hyena, that is the best possible way to spend your day. But you can see little Intima's legs, she's starting to lose the black color. There's a few spots developing on the feet now, or around the feet area. Andy, you're asking how old hyena cubs are when they get weaned off their mother. Well, Andy, anywhere between 6 and 8 months, so somewhere around there is when they'll start to be weaned. So Intima's she's about 6 months now, so she's on that process of being weaned off. Normally it's around 8 months though, from what I've seen. I've even seen hyenas of closer to 12 months trying to suckle. They generally don't get very much out of their mothers, and their mothers generally snap at them and chase them away, but they do try. So, but generally 8 months is a good figure to work on. But you can see the little feet that Craig was showing you just now, and the tail at the back there. They're all starting to lose that black coloration and getting bits of white and spots on them. And it's even the fluff is starting to get less and less. You know, when they're first out and they first get this spotty coat, they're very fluffy, and but slowly but surely. What was that? Now it sounds like something is crashing through the bushes close to us. You can see Intima lifted her head, and I can't hear exactly what it is, but there was a squeaking sound and then a crashing of bushes. I wonder if there isn't something here close by. You can see, look, Intima's busy looking over her shoulder. It is somewhere on our left hand side. Now there was tracks for varying other animals around here. I didn't see any signs of elephant tracks, so maybe it's those big animals we don't talk about. I wonder if it's not them crashing around. It could be. Because I can hear oxpeckers as well, which is generally a good indication that there is a large animal somewhere close by. Of course, the hyenas are not perturbed in the slightest by all of this. They've just gone back to sleep and taken it very easy. What is amazing is that even though there was a crashing in the bush, Intima she looked and she was quite concerned as to what was going on for a few seconds, but Ribbon, not at all interested at what was going on. She knows that that sound is a natural sound and not one that she has to worry about. If she had heard maybe a different sound of some other sort of predator, you might have found her reacting a lot quicker. Right, sounds like Taylor has a feathered friend again, so before it flies away, let's quickly go across to her. I feel like they are, Taylor. I feel like it's one of those moments where you kind of zen moments where you sit with your sort of head raised slightly to the sun, and it always reminds me of meerkats when they kind of sit in the sun and they lift their heads and their eyes closed and you just enjoy the warmth of the sunshine. And it seems a little bit like what these hyenas are doing. And Tima's poked her head up every now and then and kind of looked around, but Ribbon, well, as you can see, is not really that interested in what's going on. I don't think she's moved her head. She opens her eyes from time to time, but otherwise is not really too concerned with what's going on at this stage of the game. A pretty happy, content hyena. But you can see no red or blood around the muzzle like what we saw the other day, so she, I don't think, fed this morning. Elizabeth, you're wondering how often hyenas have cubs. Now, this is quite cool because hyenas, out of all the predators, the big predators, if we think of lion and leopard and cheetah and those animals, hyenas actually have a very regular cub intervals. They pretty much breed once a year, so they will have their young ones, very short gestation period of just over 2.5 months, and then they have their young ones, should I say, and then from there they'll raise them, and once they're 8 months they start weaning, and by a year old they are pretty much running around and they can then start breeding. So the interval is about a year and a half between cubs, which if you think of lions generally are between 2.5 and 3 years between cubbing intervals if they raise them successfully, and leopards very similar as well. So it's quite interesting that theirs is much shorter, and that's why hyena clan numbers can grow very quickly in areas where there's not any other predators or any other threats to their cubs. They generally find that their numbers expand very, very fast. And last year during the drought, I know Taylor was talking about the drought, and last year during the drought it was prime conditions for hyenas, and we saw a big growth in the hyena population within the Sabi Sands and even the Kruger Park system. And the reason why is because with the drought there were so many animals dying that the hyenas were finding so much food, the nutrient-rich milk was getting to their young ones, and so the success rate and the survival rate of the young was that much more. Also, there's a theory that sometimes with a oversupply of food that you'll actually get 2 mating seasons within the same year. So even if the little ones are around 8 months and they're weaning, they'll actually have a next set already because they're able to find enough food and to produce more milk and to be able to keep those ones alive. So the hyena numbers did increase drastically through that drought. You found a lot more hyenas surviving, and they were able to provide so much more food to their little ones. Now I think Ribbon's starting to stretch a little bit. I wonder if she's not going to get up and move. Maybe the sun is just hitting her back feet and getting a little hot. And you'll sometimes find that is what happens. And she might move around to the back of the other side of the den, like what we saw the other day. She got up and she got to the other side and lay down there in this nice shade. And then little Intima came following and bounding behind her. Now, I must be honest, this little cub has grown on me, and Tima's becoming such a inquisitive little animal. It kind of comes up to the vehicle at times and checks what's going on and sees what's happening, and is always having a look at what is going on around its little home. So very cute hyena, and seems to have a nice nature to it. So I'm enjoying spending time with these two, that's for sure. And the fact that this den has been so active for us, it's been fantastic. So Pancake, oh, that's a nice Twitter handle, particularly at this time of the day for us, because, well, it's morning and the thought of pancakes is always a happy thought. And Pancake, you want to know about, oh, look at Ribbon yawning. See the dental structure there? She's got big teeth. You want to know if the female hyenas are larger than the males. Well, yes, they are. So the females are larger, and that's because it's a matriarchal society, and so the females pretty much dictate what goes on. Good morning, Intima. Are you having a little stretch? You can see she's at that lanky phase now where the legs are quite long, the body is starting to get a little bit more slender. When they're still tiny, they tend to be quite big and fluffy. So she's getting a little bit on the lanky side, and it eventually will all even out. But there we go. This has now found a place to suckle. It'll kick to mom's belly just to make sure the milk is coming out. And there we go. That is one content hyena cub. So back to the females being larger, because the matriarchs of the clan and they look after what's going on, they generally get much bigger than what the males are. Not generally, they do get much bigger than the males. And that is a position of complete relaxation. Not very ladylike, but, well, looks comfortable nonetheless. Little ribbon. It's interesting, her ears are actually quite clean, considering her sort of rank in the clan. And here comes little Intima to investigate the car. I was saying that she does like to investigate, so here we go. And there she just disappears. Now, Intima, do not eat my tires, otherwise we're going to have a problem. So it seems like she's going to eat the tires, which means that we might have a problem. And they sometimes chew on the valves, and I've actually had a blowout at a hyena den where the hyenas chewed through the valve and the whole tires went hyenas all scattered into the mound, and then we had to change the tire there. But hopefully that won't happen, so I'm going to try and just see if I can't encourage Intima not to bite my tires. And while we do that, let's go across to Taylor McCurdy and see what she's up to. Indeed, and look at it, it's just sitting watching and wondering what's going on. It was trying to suckle, and Mom got up and just walked off, and now been left all by yourself to wonder about what you've done. I think Mom had enough of you, little one, and decided you'd fed enough, and you've been put on rations, so you're now having to spend your time by yourself. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be the end of it. I'm sure Intima is going to go and have a nap now. She's got a full belly, and so she's going to go and take it easy up in the hole. There we go. Adele and Natalie, you're asking if hyena cubs are born with teeth. And I'm not actually 100% sure. I'm sure they do have milk teeth that they have, and that will eventually then grow out, and they'll get their adult teeth. But I think they are born with very, very small teeth to start with. They're not very big, but they do go through a teething process. So the teeth, I think, just protrude and then slowly start coming through. When they're tiny, you often find them biting everything. So they'll bite trees and branches. And so very similar to most animals is that the teeth come out after they're born. So no, they probably don't have teeth when they're born. I'm not actually 100% sure, but I would imagine that they go through a teething process because you can see it happening quite often. Now I'm just going to reposition so we can see little Intima. Interestingly enough, when Ribbon walked off, she does have a little limp at the moment. She's got a limp on her left leg, and I saw there was an old wound there where she's been bitten on her left back area. Is definitely healing up nicely, and she's not too bad. After she had taken a few steps, you could see it started to get loosened up a little bit from lying for a long period of time. I think that's why she was having a bit of a limp. So if we see hyenas limping along, we might know exactly who it is from now. Craig said he saw a hyena limping across quarantine yesterday. It was yesterday or the day before, and so it must have been Ribbon that was doing that. But it's not a terrible limp, and it certainly won't stop her from moving around or in any way impede her activity and her ability to find food over the next few days or weeks until that is healed properly. But there is definitely a little bite mark there, so I wonder if she either didn't get dominated by the rest of the clan at a carcass, or if she had a little run-in with something else. And maybe that's the answer to what happened with this hyena that died in Buffelshoek. Maybe they competed with some lions or something like that, and that's what happened, although nobody really is sure how that hyena at Buffelshoek died. Little Intima, what are you doing? So you're just looking around. I suppose when you're a little bit bored at home, it's one of those situations, looking for something to be able to kind of play with and go after. Fernanda, you're asking if hyenas are related to wild dogs. No, they're not. Hyenas are in their own family altogether, so they are in Hyena Den, whereas the wild dogs are in the canine family, so a little bit different in terms of their structures. They have different feet, different everything. In fact, wild dogs have a fused middle toe, and that's what separates them from everybody else, which the hyenas don't have. So a little bit different to each other, and that's why we refer to the young of hyenas as cubs as opposed to puppies like we do with the wild dogs. Now, unfortunately, it is that time of the day where it's starting to get to time for us to go for breakfast and for the show to finish and the drive to wrap up. We will be, of course, out this afternoon. It will be, I'm not actually sure who's going to be out. We have to flick a coin and see if it's maybe going to be team boys or team girls. So that's going to be what's going to go on, because Byron is back, Ali is back, and Taylor and I will still be here. We're definitely going to try and see if we can't fix Rusty today as well, and see if we can't get that all sorted out. So it promises to be at least a good day, and we certainly will have some vibrance back in the camp with Ali and Byron arriving, and I'm sure lots of fun will be had by all. It's always good when the two of them are back, and it's nice that Taylor and myself are here too, because I think we're going to have lots of fun. And like I say, we've already decided it'll be team boys versus team girls. So from myself, Taylor, Craig and Sebastian, thank you very much. We'll see you all on the Sunset Safari.